Like my friend Anita Krishna in Canada, she worked for a global news or some a big news network. She started to ask just regular questions. She's like, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? We're a news organization. Isn't that what we do as a news organization? And she got fired for that, of course.
Right. Yes, I did. I asked a lot of questions. One of my questions was, Justin Trudeau, what the heck are you doing to us at the time? And you can see how well that ended. Well, actually, ended well for me because I now do my own thing. But I did work for Global News for a really long time, and I would say I could talk about this later, but I could say that everybody was pretty much under the spell of Justin Trudeau, and nobody wanted to make him look bad. That was one thing I noticed, and that was very clear from working in the newsroom. But as you all know, you have heard the news today that Justin Trudeau has stepped aside. He has effectively resigned as leader of the Liberal Party and also as Prime Minister. Now he's going to stay on until March 24th so that they can select a new leader. And standing by, I've got a great guest. I mean, sometimes we get all caught up in our opinions and our emotions, but sometimes we just have to get the facts, right? Stick to the facts. So I've got a guest. He's with the Epoch Times. I'm going to bring him in shortly. His name is Noe Chartier, and he does a lot of political reporting. But first, let's have a look at what Justin Trudeau said earlier today outside Rideau Cottage.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Okay, and joining me now is Noe Chartier from the Epoch Times. Hi, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Now, all on the weekend, there were so many rumblings and so many rumors that this was going to happen. You're a political reporter. Did you expect this to happen, or were you expected it? Or what were your thoughts when you heard the rumors, first of all?
There were still some small details to iron out, so we didn't know exactly what would happen. There are still, people as of a couple of days ago who thought he would try to stay on. So once we started to think about is going to step down, then it's all about the mechanics of how it's going to happen, how the party is going to carry this out, questions about whether he would prorogue or not. So all of these have been answered right now. So I think there is some clarity with regards to the next steps.
Right. Okay, so maybe just explaining it to the layman, to us, although I follow politics and I'm so interested in it, there are a lot of things that we kind of don't understand that are confusing. So first of all, maybe, I don't know if you could tell us, but in that clip, he said, we're going to stay on until a new leader is selected. How is that selection process going to go? He said, quote, he'll through a robust nationwide competitive process. What is that?
So first of all, he's proroguing Parliament so that the opposition parties cannot vote, topple the government while this is taking place. So he's giving his party a chance to prepare a better campaign or launch a better effort before the next election, which could be pretty consequential for the Liberal Party. So the next steps will be made clear in the next couple of days. So on Wednesday, there will be a big Liberal caucus in Ottawa. I understand that some MPs will also be joining virtually, but I'm assuming that a lot of information will be passed down at that stage with regards to how the party is planning to organize this leadership contest. So normally, leadership contests can last a long time. I think for Trudeau's last one in 2013, it was multiple months, maybe something like over 6 months. So right now, it would not have worked for him to prorogue Parliament for that amount of time. I think it would not have been received well at all. Even now, the opposition is not really happy about it. But now he's giving his party about 3 months to find a replacement, and then hope to sort of turn the tide around with what we're seeing in regards to voters' intention right now. As you know, the Liberal Party are really not faring well. Over 20 points behind the Tories. So he's stepping down, and I guess he's listened to people who suggested that without him at the helm, then there's a chance that the Liberal Party will be able to have a better showing.
First of all, there's two questions here. How will that be decided? Will the Liberals all get together and go, okay, we vote on this person and this is going to be the person?
So before today, there was questions as to whether the Liberal caucus will appoint an interim leader to be in charge while this leadership contest took place. But from what I understand, it's going to be a normal contest where members are going to vote on an array of contenders.
Okay.
So the thing that is different from usual contests is that the party is in power, the parliament is prorogued. He's staying on as the leader while this is going on. So this brings up a whole other set of questions with regards to what he can do while he is prime minister. Is he a lame duck prime minister? Does he have the legitimacy to handle thorny files like the incoming U.S. administration? So all these questions.
Yeah, these are all good questions. And my second question I was going to ask before we get to that part is, who would it be? Who would this Liberal? Who do you foresee that could take over this party, and who would want to? People bring up names: Anita Anand, Melanie Joly, because there's no deputy. That's why Trudeau has to stay on. Some people say Chrystia Freeland. Do you have any thoughts on this, on who it could be?
I think he's staying on because he decided to stay on. So that's the big thing. Like everything that's happening right now, it's because he decided that it's going to be this way. So I don't think there's any mechanism where he says, I'm stepping down and my deputy takes over.
Because he has no deputy, right? Like there's no deputy. Yeah. He has to stay there.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure that there would be such mechanic where he still holds basically all the cards, and he decides what takes place next. So you've mentioned some of the names. Melanie Joly. She did a kind of soft launch in the New York Times. I don't know if you saw that a few weeks ago. So she had a profile in the New York Times, and it said, she could be Trudeau's replacement, and it's very sort of crafted in a way that she doesn't come out and say, I'm coming for the top spot, but it's kind of insinuated that that's what she's looking forward to.
Just to interject there, Melanie Joly has not really been on our radar. Only just recently we see her pop up more and more as a name. It's like the pickings are so slim, and Melanie Joly can't even win in her own riding, which is a shocker.
There's going to be very few Liberal seats, or at least that was the picture as of a couple of days ago. So she's there. You mentioned Anand as well.
Anita Anand,
Anita Anand, who's been moving around a lot. If you remember, she was defense minister, and there was some chatter that she was getting a demotion because she was getting a lot of exposure outside doing the defense work, and she was put in charge of the Treasury Board, which is a more sort of low key role. And then she was moved again to transport. So I don't know if it was a sort of an effort to put her aside or not by the PMO. Her name comes up. So does Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne. The other individual who also within cabinet who could make a good run is Dominique Leblanc. He's been Trudeau's right-hand man. Came in to replace Freeland at finance, and he's
willing to take the job.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one who, like, he was in charge of preparing the border plan. He went with Trudeau to see Trump in Mar-a-Lago. He went the second time, so he's been getting a lot of face time with the U.S. administration. He's very calm. He likes to crack jokes with reporters. And he seems to be very hard to face. He seems unfazed by things that happen. So people that are looking for stability might be turning towards him. So these are the players within cabinet.
These are the players. Even Chrystia Freeland, her name comes up, even though she was not well liked at all.
Seems to be quite a lot of people that saw her as very potent. I think one of the Trudeau's hardest critics, MP Sean Casey, says she was an intellectual heavyweight. So I do think there's people within the Liberal caucus that see her as a great politician, and that's probably why they were so shocked by the way she was treated or her resignation in that, and that's kind of it's kind of the key event that led to what happened today. So she's outside cabinet, but obviously she quit the cabinet, but she said she would still run in the next election. So obviously I put her probably ahead of the others in terms of chance of winning that contest. Political outsiders or outside sort of the Ottawa bubble, you have former central banker Mark Carney. He's never denied that he was interested in the position.
Although he doesn't step up very much, I find he doesn't seem keen or eager, but he doesn't say yes, he doesn't say no.
Well, he doesn't say no, and that's the big tell. It's like if you want the job of someone and you're still trying to support him, he was put into a special situation. Trudeau had tried to recruit him to his government for years. They finally succeeded by making him a special economic advisor in September. Maybe that was kind of launching a balloon to replace Freeland as finance minister and just cultivate him in that way. And then the way things happen, he decided to not take the post or back off. Something
wasn't right for him, but fine. He's not well liked either amongst Canadians. That's just my opinion, but I
don't have my pulse on that, but Trudeau, him and Freeland all share the same kind of general political ideology. And
that ideology is having a hard time right now because it's going against what a lot of Canadians are feeling. Everybody sort of got sick of the 9 years of woke. But I wonder if we could talk a little bit about, now that he's prorogued Parliament, effectively Parliament is on hold. Do you know then what powers would Trudeau have? Like, can he... I think he couldn't pass an Emergencies Act, or he can't. Could he pass any act? What can he do right now?
Government business is as usual. Basically, the things that are not working are the same that were not working in the fall in Parliament because there was this, opposition filibuster. So the House was basically non-functional for the whole of all of the fall sitting.
Right.
Because of the controversy over the federal green fund and the documents. So I don't want to get into that, but just saying that, bills weren't passed, money for a government operation was passed sort of last minute, and just the basic was being done. So within those next couple months, they're still forming the governor in council. They can still pass orders in council.
They can.
There's nothing preventing them from doing so. As far as I know,
he still has the same power.
He's the prime minister. Nothing has changed. He still has the same authority. What is different right now is that their legislative agenda has completely collapsed. There are none of those bills that they wanted to pass are going to pass. And the chief one that you might be interested in is Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. So that one died on the order paper. And if they want to bring it back, they'll have to do it when a new parliamentary session starts. And chances are that as soon as that starts, opposition parties are going to vote non-confidence to topple the government.
That's a big deal to a lot of Canadians, the Online Harms Act, and to people who value free speech. Because although that act seemed to be, they always touted it as to keep your child safe from the internet. There was probably language in the act that didn't actually, that was scarier than just that. Right?
Well, that's the thing, is that they made a sort of more robust bill that has all those things to protect against child exploitation online. But then there's also everything else about those new hate crime offenses and the Human Rights Commission being able to find people who've offended others online, and creating a new digital safety bureaucracy to regulate social media. So that's why the Justice Minister Arif Virani said a couple of weeks ago that he wanted to split the bill, so that the first part more towards protecting children and against things like sextortion and all that stuff, to separate that from the other more controversial aspects, so for it to be easier.
But there was language in that bill that seemed to obviously affected free speech, and then treated it like it was a crime and stuff like that. So that bill is officially dead in the water. It's not going to surface, right? That died, didn't it? That's gone.
That's what prorogation does. It kills all the, except
kills the bill.
Except the private member's business or private member's bill. I think those are carried forward to the next session, but government bills are supposed to be dead. And if the government wants to bring them back, I think it needs unanimous consent from the House.
On a side note, I remember, I follow you on X, and you were working the day Chrystia Freeland resigned. And I think might have been you shot video of all these boxes coming out. Because that was the day of the economic fall statement. Do you know what happened to those? That everything's just on hold. What was in those boxes?
It was just a clip, and my assumption is that those were boxes with the statements, and it wasn't scrapped. Yeah. They just released it later in the day. So they probably brought those boxes to the cabinet meeting for ministers to read before it was released publicly. So I just made a joke that they were putting those in the dumpster, but the fall economic statement was still released, even though it wasn't presented by Freeland as it was supposed to.
And can I ask you one other thing, if you know, because sometimes people were confused about this, as was I. People were pleading to write to the Governor General, Mary Simon, just to plead her to ask Trudeau to prorogue, but at the end of the day, she can only just suggest it, because ultimately, does he not have supreme power? She's mostly just a figurehead. So I've heard that too during the Freedom Convoy, people trying to get the GG involved. Yeah. I was that's not a thing. Like people should, if people want action, if they want something to happen, they should be writing to their MPs or starting petitions. And even petitions, they only go so far. So if people want to have their voices heard politically through the system, then going through their representative in the House of Commons is a better use of energy than writing to the GG. I think people thought the GG would have some sort of magic wand, but that's not how. She usually acts on the advice of the Prime Minister. So same thing for the Prime Minister asked for the Parliament to be prorogued, and she signed basically a piece of paper. There are some cases where it's a little bit like the Senate. They have means with protocol to show that they're not necessarily in favor of doing something by delaying or whatnot, but at the end of the day, they're unelected, and we're in a democracy, so we're supposed to be. What now? Let me ask you this: what about the role of Jagmeet Singh now? What is his role in all of this? Like he was
Yeah.
always with Trudeau and then denouncing him, and then with him and then denouncing him. And I feel like a lot of Canadians can't trust what he says or what he's going to do. How does his role affect what's going to happen in the next few weeks?
If you put all that what you've just said behind, and you just take him at his word, which he wrote in a letter on December 20th, and I think he said that again today. Whoever is in, it doesn't matter whoever is at the helm of the Liberal Party. He said this government has run its course, and he will vote non-confidence. So those are his words.
Those are his words.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how does it change for him in 3-4 months if there's a new Liberal leader? Do the Liberals try to join, make concessions again with him, so that as soon as a new leader comes on, they strike a pact again and they try to pass some of the bills that we mentioned? It is a possibility. This could definitely happen.
That he'll form a coalition with whoever the new guy's going to be?
It doesn't even have to be a coalition, because the NDP was not in the supply and confidence agreement since September. They broke that deal, but the NDP was still supporting the agenda of the Liberals, the budget and the financials measures and all that. So it doesn't need to be a formal thing. All I'm saying is that it could happen. The only thing that will decide if yay or nay is that if he sticks to his word. At the end of the day, right now, if there's a spring election, it's only gaining a few months. But it's only a few months before the real election, or the sort of scheduled election, is supposed to take place in October, right? Okay. So the parliamentary session usually goes to June, and then they break until September. So if the government doesn't fall before June, it goes into recess, and then the election would start in September for a voting date in late October. So that's the picture right now. The sort of two main variables are we going to a spring, or do we have a spring election or early summer or something like that, or is it instead in October? And the other factors within this is like how does the Liberal Party benefit from that? So the case for booting Trudeau out is to give them a better chance for those MPs. There's different points of views. I'm sure there's some very self-serving interests from MPs that say, I don't want to lose my seat. There's other people that say, well, it's the Liberal Party needs to be saved, or needs to be rebuilt in some other thing, or some other image, or other values that will reach more Canadians. So there's different self-protection mechanisms on the way. Some are more individualistic, and some are more at the level of the party, where we have to defend this party as an institution, because before this happened today, there's a real possibility that they lose a really huge amount of seats at the next election.
But before I don't think we can leave each other until we just have a few moments just listening to what Pierre Poilievre had to say today. He had a very impactful statement.
Canadians desperate to turn the page on this dark chapter in our history might be relieved today that Justin Trudeau is finally leaving. But what has really changed? Every Liberal MP in power today, and every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job, helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years. All Liberal politicians actively worked to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax, a tax that Carbon Tax Carney endorsed in his book. All supported a law quadrupling the tax over the next 5 years. All voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt, and immigration. All passed Trudeau's housing policies that doubled the cost of homes. All Liberal politicians helped pass catch-and-release bail and house arrest for the most rampant offenders, policies that increased violent crime 50%, gun crime 116%, and hate crime by 250%. So given that Liberal MPs and leadership contenders unanimously supported everything Trudeau has done, why dump him now? right before an election? Have they had a change of heart? Is it because they feel guilty that they doubled housing costs, hiked taxes, unleashed crime, broke immigration, forced a quarter of the population into poverty?
I mean, very strong words. I mean, he's not having it. He's just not having it. But even despite all this and the fact that the majority of Canadians want change, at the end of the day, we are still in a wait and see because we don't know, like you were saying before, we don't know if something's going to happen in March or the summer or fall. It is a waiting game still, while Trudeau is still effectively in charge.
Yes, there is still politics going on. Instead of looking at the House of Commons, we'll be focused on the leadership race, on how the the incoming U.S. administration deals with Canada, and how and vice versa. So there are still very significant events that can happen until we have a bit more clarity. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Noe Chartier, thank you so much for all your insight. And, it's sometimes just good to just get the facts, right? Like just everybody's emotional, but sometimes it's nice to just take the emotion out of it, and just have a discussion about what actually is going on and what is happening. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining me.
It was
And
my
how
pleasure.
can people catch you? They can follow you on X. And follow the Epoch Times, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll be watching out for your reports. I will, for sure. Okay. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I just wrapped up an interview with a reporter. He's a political reporter with the Epoch Times, and we just kind of kept it straight. We didn't sort of rant and rave. And as you know, I am one for ranting and raving, but I did a straight up interview just to sort of calm down and talk about the facts. But the fact is that, knowing me, I have to bring some emotion forward, some emotion into this. Because I was just thinking, he's resigned and he says that he cares about people, but on the same token, he's still there. We still have him. I mean, we don't know when the election is going to be called, whether it's going to be in the spring or the summer or the fall or whatever. And he still has the supreme power in a way, right? Despite all the protestations and trying to write to the governor general and doing this and doing that, which I think are valid things to do, she still has to consult with him. Like he still is in power right now because he's still the guy. Maybe he can't really pass an emergencies act and things like that, but he's still there in the ether. It's not like he's stepping down and going away. But I mean, for the narcissist that I believe that he is, and sort of the lack of personal responsibility and accountability for all the things that were done, he did at least resign, or at least he said the words. I mean, but he's still there. And all I can say is when I think about all those press conferences, all those COVID press conferences, all the things that were done, and just to society, with all the things that I don't have to mention that everybody knows, the horses, the way the police looked, how people were like attacking people for not wearing masks, how society was divided and arguing and bitter to one another, and how awful people were, and the vaccine passports and booster, get your booster, and all the stupid things we did. And it's ludicrous to even think they could manufacture those needles alone and the packaging. You think you can get all that ready times 8 for every man, woman, and child in Canada, 40 million people, so you can have 8 for each ready to go in production? It's like me telling someone, I need you to build 1,000 houses by next month. You can't do it. It's a physical improbability. So for anyone that doesn't sort of get that this was all kind of in the works beforehand, I don't know how you show your face after doing all that to citizens and just keep forging ahead in your own sort of delusion, You know, that's what I didn't like about him. And when I think of the you can't get on a plane and all the things that that he was saying, I will never forgive him for that. And he's not asking for my forgiveness. And I will never forgive Global News ever for the way we reported to the public, for what we did, for how I still have to bite my tongue. Nowadays, I don't even, but bite my tongue in certain social situations because you can't say anything that might even offend somebody about a Maxine. You know, I don't know. I'm fed up. I'm just fed up, and there's no apology for all the pain and suffering, and that's how I feel. And the pain and suffering that was sort of sanctioned by news because we never knew. A lot of us didn't know that the news would even be capable of doing this to people. You hear something on the news and you take it that, well, these are the facts. Until little did we know, geez, we've been lying about a lot of things and we didn't even know. Our own employees were deceived by things and they didn't know. They were all in their own ignorance. They're still ignorant about why people died. Like they can't figure it out at this point where they die suddenly. They just can't figure it out, even at this point. And so with all the bailout money and all what management was doing at Global and all the things that we didn't tell you that you've come to know on your own, I will not miss this man or his face, and he should just move somewhere, move to an island and just stay there. I do want to show you Michael Schellenberger. It made me feel good when I was reading it today. He says, Trudeau spread disinformation to persecute his critics. He froze their bank accounts. He demanded censorship. We have to talk about the malignant narcissism of Justin Trudeau. This narcissism thing that I'm on is catching on. Everybody is talking about it now. Everybody's saying it, not because of me, but I don't know. Justin Trudeau says he's deeply compassionate, but he's not. He smeared ordinary Canadians as Nazis. He froze the bank accounts of critics of his COVID policies, and he spread disinformation while demanding censorship. It's time to talk about the malignant narcissism of Justin Trudeau. Here they have he goes on to talk about Yaroslav Hanka, the Nazi, the 98-year-old Nazi they brought into the House of Commons. Galaxy Brain helped uncover proof that his government used fake intelligence to illegally frame protesting truckers as violent extremists. That's true. The news helped with that too. Trudeau claimed a new hate speech law that was required to protect children. It wasn't. Harming children was already illegal. Trudeau's government confirmed to the public that the law would allow judges to send people to prison for speech crimes. Trudeau was a key figure in the totalitarian push by politicians in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Scotland, Brazil, and the EU to create a fake hate panic in order to censor and interfere in elections and incarcerate their critics. And then look at this. I just want to... Ooh!
Oh, Canada, our home and native land. Okay, come on down to the car. Patriot love in all of us proud land. We've got from far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God,
This is what you do to peaceful protest.
glorious and free. Oh, Canada.
Like, do you get it when you see this stuff? We did not want to take that bullshit. That's how badly we didn't want to, that people stood in the Canadian cold for that. And this is the thanks they got from that prime minister.
We stand on guard for thee.
Yeah, because that's how you treat a man in his pajamas, a senior.
Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Excuse stand on guard. I will never forget that time. I will never forget this time in my life as long as I live. That I'll never forget this time, and no one will ever forget this and what everyone went through, except for the people that didn't know in the first place.